morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio. And yesterday, potentially earlier today, but probably yesterday, we talked about Nidoking. And seems a little bit rude to talk about Nidoking and not talk about Nidoking, because of course we have had both a Nidoking and a Nidoqueen revealed. So let's talk Nidoking, shall we? It's got 160 HP, which makes it very bulky, though exactly as bulky as Nidoqueen, and to be honest, right, this is what Stage 2s often have in the post-Sun and Moon era. Think Empoleon, for instance. So, okay, it's alright, it's not great. Retreat cost of 3 is high, weakness to Psychic is kind of annoying because of stuff like Garbodor, but then again, you're hitting weakness on stuff like Buzzwole, so actually, I can get on board with this. And don't forget, we've got some fun little psychic tricks nowadays. We've got stuff like Morty, and we got stuff like Spell Tag, which can help us out quite nicely. But as always, it is the attacks. That's what we're really worried about. Our translations here come from the lovely Tunu1223 over on Twitter. And according to him, Nidoking's got some kind of interesting attacks. What it does, the first one, for just a double colorless energy drag off. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. This attack does 50 damage to the new active Pokemon. Once again, why? Why does it have to be 50? Why is it always 50? It makes me so frustrated. Now, sometimes I kind of get it, I suppose. So let's take like a Alolan Ninetales. It's got an attack for a double colorless energy that does 50 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. The thing is, there is a gigantic difference between 50 and 60. 60 KOs something like Azorua. Okay, to be fair, not with this because you're hitting it when it's in the active and it's got resistance, but it's just an example. Or it KOs something like Routes, for instance, which does still see quite a lot of play. There's a whole bunch of 60 HP basics. And the thing is, if this did 60, then what you could do is get your Nidoking rolling, attach a double colorless energy, and then just be picking these 60 HP Pokemon off the bench and KOing them. Now, maybe for Alolan Ninetales, with it being a stage 1, I can go, okay, maybe that's a bit cheeky because you go first. It means you can do this attack before your opponent even gets a turn to evolve. And to be fair, Nidoking can do this before you get a turn to evolve if you go first and get the turn 2, including something like Rare Candy. Because you will need the Rare Candy. You can't just evolve up manually in one turn. But it's a stage 2. It's a special energy that you can only play 4 of in your deck. You can use something like Energy Lotto, but it's not the easiest thing to search out here. So it's a stage 2 with not the easiest energy cost, though not the worst. So why can't it do 60? Seriously, why can't it do 60? It would be such a better card. And look, there's plenty of 70 HP basics like Grubbin running around. But honestly, this is annoying. And one of the interesting things at the moment, we've got Professor Elm's Lecture, which lets you search for Pokemon with 60 HP or less. So that provides a potentially interesting question that we've got a 70 HP Piplup, more HP, and a 60 HP Piplup can be searched with Professor Elm's Lecture. Well, if something like Nidoqueen was stomping around, then that would give you an even more difficult choice because something like Nidoking could take you out. I get it, right? I know that not all of these attacks can do 60. I concede that Alolan Ninetales doesn't need to do 60. But Nidoking is a stage 2, for goodness sake. You need to be able to do 60 and get the KOs here. I understand that for some Pokemon it doesn't make sense, but for a stage 2 Nidoking, it definitely makes sense. And I'm a little bit upset right now. I'm a little bit upset. I really, really think it should be doing 60. And it would be such a better Pokemon if you did. You could bring it active and then just start picking off those little Pokemon on your opponent's bench. Now, as it is, it's still fine. 50 damage is all right. and you're hitting for weakness, but then again, if you were hitting for 60, then Choice Band Shrine of Punishment will get a one-hit KO on Buzzwole GX. As it is now, you won't, which is another slight annoyance. But also, you've got the same thing going on here that you've got with Guzma. So if your opponent's got a Makago on the bench, for instance, well, Makago's not got the easiest retreat cost. It's got a retreat cost of 3. So you bring it active and do 50. And then maybe you bring something else active and do 50. And you buy yourself time. You buy yourself time to set up with this attack while getting some damage down. It's fine, but it's annoying. And then we have the second attack, which is also kind of interesting. Now, it's a little bit more expensive, as we might expect. It's for a Psychic double colorless, and it does 100 damage. But if you've got a Nidoqueen on your bench, then you do 200 damage. That's not bad. 200 damage will out and out KO something like a Lycanroc. Time you add a Choice Band on here, you're up to 230, and that's something like a Gardevoir. And then, of course, Shrine of Punishment can fill in the gaps if there's any Pokemon that you're not KOing at that point. Even if you don't have a Nidoqueen on the bench, this will still KO stuff that's weak, like Buzzwole, for instance. And we talked about Nidoqueen before. And Nidoqueen's actually quite nice. I'll pop a link to that video in the description, but basically Nidoqueen's ability lets you search out a Pokemon, which means it's going to be easier to set up stuff like your Nidoking. And then the attack does 10 damage plus 50 for each evolution Pokemon on your bench, so a Nidoking on the bench or even a Nidorino while you're waiting to evolve up will mean you get the extra 50 damage here. So they do work well in tandem. And yesterday we talked about doing Nidoqueen with stuff like Makago and Zebstrika and maybe even Malamar, and how we could potentially make that work, and how it was awkward and it wasn't the easiest thing to set up, but maybe we could make it work. Because we can play these consistency cards. We can play Alolan Ninetales, the fairy one, not the previous one we talked about that was the water one. Maybe we play Alolan Ninetales to get your Nidoking set up. And then we play stuff like Makago and Zebstrika to keep the deck rolling, and Malamar to make sure we've got enough energy for the second attack. The problem is, Nidoking and Nidoqueen have separate evolution lines. We're not talking about Gardevoir and Gallade here. We are talking separate evolution lines. And the difficulty with that is, how many evolution lines are you playing here? That's my big problem with Nidoking. I like Nidoking. But in order to use Nidoking, we've basically got to use Nidoqueen. And the problem is, in order to use Nidoqueen, we've basically got to use a variety of Pokemon like Alolan Ninetales, like Zebstrika, etc. So we're already playing multiple evolution lines to make Nidoqueen work. And as I said in the video yesterday, I believe that Nidoqueen can work. Not the easiest thing to make work, but I believe that we can make it work here. But can we actually make it work with Nidoking as well? I am genuinely worried that the answer to that is no. I don't think Nidoking and Nidoqueen together will work. Okay, Nidoqueen's ability is great searching for Pokemon, but you still need your supporters, you still need your energy, and remember that both of these Pokemon need a third energy. You can't do the good attack for a double colorless. And that's where we run into problems here. Because where are we going with this? Can we really do Nidoking and Nidoqueen and Malamar and Alolan Ninetales and Zebstrika? I don't think we can. Can we do Nidoqueen with a thin Alolan Ninetales line to get set up? Zebstrika has a consistency boost and a 1-1 Malamar line for if you need the extra energy? Yes! It's not the easiest thing, but at a push I think that can work. Adding in another Stage 2? My rule for Stage 2s has always been, if you're going to play multiple Stage 2s, one of them better have a draw engine. And I don't think searching out one Pokemon per turn is enough. I'm giving Nidoking between 2 and 3 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I've got nothing against Nidoking, it's a fun little card, but the fact that it only works when you've got another Stage 2 in play, which is potentially the focus of its own deck anyway, it does question for me the viability of this card. I'm sorry, but that's the way I see it. But heck, maybe you say it differently, in which case, great news, ladies and gentlemen. There is a comment section, so do make sure you go nuts, though I would ask you very politely to be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, other than checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.